We're truly blessed this morning, and we'd like to thank and recognize our shepherd among us, Bishop Montfort, and a very dear and longtime friend of the university, Bishop Sheridan. And a new face among us from the Diocese of Kanfanten in Nigeria, Bishop Bogabiri. Welcome. Today is filled with many activities, and the next one at 2:30 would be replicated at any university in the United States with the installment of a new president. That isn't different at all. But we, in our faith commitment, begin here at the Eucharist. Because not only is Father Sean being installed later on this afternoon as an institutional president, he's also being commissioned by the Third Order Regular of St. Francis to be a pastor among you. And in reflecting on these readings today, I have come to appreciate the ability to listen very dearly right now. I live in a community of 9 friars, of which 7 of us, and I'm one of them, have to communicate in a language that's not our mother tongue. And the need to listen is sometimes very fatiguing. And you don't have the luxury to daydream because the conversation doesn't stop. So you have to be very intense. And yet, listening in the tradition of the Scriptures is not an option. What is the creed of Israel? It isn't, "Look, O Israel." It isn't, "Smell, O Israel." It isn't, "Feel, O Israel." It's, "Hear, O Israel." Listen. And God's form of revelation to the good people of Israel through his prophets repetitively is to listen. And how do we end the old and go into the new? We have a young woman in Nazareth who heard and listened to the Word of God, and the Word of God went from her ear to her heart to her ovary to a New Testament. So this command to listen and allow yourself to be transformed is not an option. And yet, why is it so difficult? Well, in the Johannine Corpus, it's very interesting how this guy repeats himself over and over and over again, saying the same thing. And you have to kind of ask yourself, well, is it maybe that people just don't get the point? How many times do you have to tell them to love each other? And yet he has this unbelievable in the gospel, in the letters, Revelation. You're being reminded of this repetitively over and over and over again. John institutes the Eucharist in his gospel, and he doesn't even have what we, in the synoptics, the precious words of consecration. John wrote very late compared to the others. They had the rubrics down, okay? They didn't need to be reminded of the rubrics. They just forgot to love each other. So he had to remind them of a foot washing. And what does he tell them in Revelation? What does he say to the church of Ephesus? Yo, you're doing a great job. You're orthodox. You won't tolerate people that aren't. But I have to tell you, I'm a little disappointed that you forget to love. And of course, as we hear in his letters over and over again, you must be a loving woman or a loving man. or you aren't part of me. Well, then what's the problem here? How is this happening? I think that we miss the very first command or the connection. This gospel today, it started on the 9th verse. Had we begun it on the first verse, there would have been like a nice little parable or an analogy for us of a vine and a branch and how we are connected. I can become a loving man only when I accept the reality that I am loved by God first. The nature of the human being, we are ferociously self-centered. And as a result, I can love a lot of people, but if I would really analyze it, I love them because of the way they make me feel. I love them because of the way I can be the center of their world. This is not gospel love. Gospel love means I am connected to Him who loved me first and can become a conduit of that to someone else. I can love someone else. How do you lay down your life for your sister or your brother? By not loving yourself, but loving them. And that takes energy and concentration. It is not part of our natural being. And so it takes a grace to activate in our minds. By listening, I realize I'm connected to God. And as a result, I am able to overcome and lay down my life for somebody by allowing them to exist and shift the center from me to them. And I can fulfill the commandment of the Lord only that way. I don't have the ability to do it without God's grace, because it's too much against the way I am made as a human being. And so I find it very interesting. I didn't select these readings. Father Sean did. Father Sean selected the Mass to be dedicated to the Most Sacred Heart of Jesus. And that's why we're taking the prayers from the votive Mass of the Sacred Heart. And these readings are recommended by the liturgist for those who wish to have a votive Mass to the Sacred Heart. And so, as a result, in concentrating on the Sacred Heart of Jesus, we're fed from these scriptures today. And what does the Sacred Heart of Jesus tell us? It is this reminder of what you heard in the gospel, that we are loved, and because we are loved, we can do something with that. And Father Sean has accepted this as the mantra, as it were, of his ministry. And as we place him into this ministry, we remind him that he has to safeguard mercy. Mercy is a very important reality in our relationship with God. And don't confuse it with forgiveness. They're really not synonyms. Mercy always restores. Mercy always brings you back. With every absolution in the sacrament of confession, of reconciliation, you are brought back to your baptismal state. You are reinstated. That prodigal image. There's no secondhand citizenship here. You get the ring, you get the shoes, you get the cape. That's what mercy does. And that's what the Sacred Heart of Jesus reminds us of. It becomes this interpretation, as it were, or a symbol for us. How do I put this gospel into some type of symbol? It's easy. The Sacred Heart of Jesus. And that heart reminds us, I can never lose. I always have an opportunity to be reinstated. I always have an opportunity to live my life as a daughter or a son in the fullness of my vocation. And so we charge Father Sean, not so much as the institutional president, that'll come this afternoon. We charge him to safeguard the conduit of mercy within the pastoral outreach of this university. And just to remind him, we need little reminders, we really do. And I'm very blessed. You know, sometimes you're at the right place at the right time. And on October 4th, I actually celebrated it in Assisi with the Holy Father. And I explained to him where I was coming. And he sent Father Sean a rosary. Okay? And the rosary, though, this is very important to remember. Father Sean's ministry must be centered in prayer. Any pastoral minister, and there are a lot of them here, listen to me. Any pastoral minister who doesn't have his ministry or her ministry centered in prayer is the incarnation of an oxymoron. Okay? Seriously. The only thing you're going to pastor to is your own ego. Okay? But if you stay connected, and you're only going to stay connected through prayer, then you can become a pastoral conduit of the Lord. The other symbol that we brought, that we leave with Father Sean, since the Spirit has led him to this, we ask him to keep it before him. You know, the antithesis and the irony of God sometimes. The historical Jesus, on the historical Good Friday, the Romans thought they were finally going to end this situation by taking a lance and slicing it into the Lord's side. When in reality, what they did was open the floodgates of mercy that exist to this day. And so we leave this with Father Sean to remind him that he is an instrument of the Lord who has been put here on this campus by the Third Order Regular of St. Francis to guarantee that the floodgates of mercy remain open. And so, Father Sean, it's our prayer with you that as we open our own ears and as we listen and as we seek to be fed by the Word of God, that the Lord will truly feed you as His minister, as His pastor among us. The Lord's peace to you all.